Hey everybody, no drawn out jokes for the opening today. I just want to get right to the content because compound complex sentences are pretty complicated, okay? I think that was the one. Yeah. Wait, what? Oh! Hey, theme song. Compound complex sentences, like juggling, but not actually juggling. That's hard. I can't do it. Anyway, you might be thinking to yourself, I remember an entire episode about something called a compound sentence, and you're not crazy, because we did cover that way back in series 1 of this particular web television program. I will link to that episode down below, but here's the definition. Compound sentence is two independent clauses. In other words, two clauses that could stand on their own if they were separated. Two independent clauses joined by a semicolon or by a comma with one of the fanboys' conjunctions, for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. Hey, I remembered them all. And you get a sentence kind of like, Alfred ate a hot dog, semicolon, Bethany ate a salad. Yeah, wait, that's a little too gender normative. Let's switch it up. Alfred ate a salad, semicolon, Bethany ate a hot dog. And you might also be thinking to yourself, I remember an episode about complex sentences. And again, you are not crazy. It was actually just the immediate previous episode. In a complex sentence, the definition is one independent clause. Again, a clause that could stand on its own. You put a period at the end of it and it's fine. One independent clause with a subordinating conjunction, which is a big fancy term, but it's where like because or while, and then a dependent clause, a clause that because of that subordinating conjunction could not stand on its own. So you combine those together, one independent clause, one dependent clause. You can have more than one dependent clause, but for our purposes here, I'm going to give you one as an example, because you'd have something like Alfred ate a salad while Carl ate a steak. Some of you have already put it together in your head then that a compound complex sentence just combines compound sentence with a complex sentence. So our definition would be compound complex sentence has two or more independent clauses plus one or more dependent clause. So we'll take our Alfred and Carl and Bethany sentences, we'll put them together. So we'd say Alfred ate a salad while Carl ate a steak, semicolon, Bethany ate a hot dog. I don't like that. It still kind of feels like Bethany is getting the short end of the stick here. So let me rewrite that. Okay. Alfred ate a salad while Carl ate a hot dog, semicolon, Bethany splurged on a steak. I'm not going to spend any time reviewing compound and complex, but there is some new content before we get to some examples from literature. The new content is this, the conjunctive adverb. Now, hearing that name, you were probably thinking to yourself, conjunctive, that means it's a conjunction, it joins, but it's an adverb, so it answers questions, and the clause that comes after it answers questions like why, or when, or how, or to what extent, because those are the adverb questions. These conjunctive adverbs are the sort of fancy $10 academic sounding terms that you see in professional writing. It's a writer will put down a semicolon and then a word like however, moreover, nevertheless, in the same way, which is a phrase, but it's still like a conjunctive adverb. All of those things, you can add those to your writing and it sounds super, super smart. We could do that with our sentence about foods. We would say something like, Alfred ate a salad while Carl ate a steak, semicolon, meanwhile, Bethany treated herself to a steak. At this point, you might be starting to figure out, oh, I know why Bullock called this one like juggling, because that's a lot of moving pieces. There's an independent clause, a subordinated conjunction, a dependent clause, a semicolon, a conjunctive adverb. That's 6 things to keep track of, or 7 if you want to use a comma with one of the fanboys. That's a lot of moving pieces. And when you're using the compound complex sentence, being able to keep track of all those moving pieces is very important. But why? Right? Why do you have to learn something so complicated? What is the point in learning to juggle all of these moving parts? Well, okay, yes, you have to have it in situations where you want to sound academic. That is non-negotiable. But the infinite possibilities of the compound complex sentence, I mean, there's an infinite possible number of independent clauses and an infinite number of dependent clauses, and you put them together, you have double infinity possible. But that many possibilities is also what makes it so useful, is because you have so many possibilities. There are so many different ways that you can go with this. A compound sentence is just about showing balance between two ideas. A complex sentence is about showing a dependent relationship between ideas. And when you combine those two things, you get a chance to elaborate on your ideas. You can add some subtlety and some nuance. You can write the kind of sentence that helps a reader empathize with your own feelings or with the feelings of somebody else that you're talking about. It really can be used to open up a different world and a different point of view, because it allows for so many possible relationships in the sentence. Okay, and I'm not going to take an infinite amount of your time to go through all the infinite possible compound complex sentence patterns. I'm going to talk about 5. And as I talk about these, I'm going to give you some examples from the literature, as I like to do. And I'm going to be taking them from this story. It is about donkeys, and it's adorable. Yes, adorable donkeys. This is by writer Susan Orlean. She's famous, writes really well. This is from the Smithsonian Magazine. It's a travel piece, and it's a great mentor text if you are ever asked to write about a place, because she does such a really nice job of painting an entire picture of what some different places in Morocco look like, feel like, sound like, smell like, along the way, introducing us to a number of absolutely adorable donkeys. So all of the examples I'm going to show you are taken from or adapted from this text. And yes, you heard right. Some of these I've tinkered with a little bit. Okay, because the compound complex sentence form is so useful and so infinite and so flexible, these 5 sentence patterns that I'm going to talk about are really a very basic template for any kind of compound complex sentence you might want to write. And so a professional writer may not have all 5 of these in their purest form. There's going to be some juggling, some massaging, some moving pieces here and there, so adding a few more extra clauses than we really need for me to be able to talk to you about the pattern. So Susan Orlean, if you are watching this, first, hi. And second, I apologize that I have done a little bit of minor editing in order to get your sentences to fit these patterns. Actually, honestly, Susan Orlean, number 1, hi. Number 2, if I'm really being honest here, I not only had to fit the sentence patterns, but I also had to fit them onto a title card so that they could be legible for my audience. And I guess what I'm saying is, call me. I would like to do lunch. But anyway, one more piece of information, normal audience. I want you to remember, as we go through these examples from Susan Orlean, I want you to remember the known to new contract. If you don't know what that was, it was episode 1 of this series. I'll put a link to that one down in the description below as well. But it's that idea that readers are expecting you, as a writer, to take them from what they already know to information that is new. This new information is going to be after and linked to the information that they already know. Compound complex sentence pattern number 1, dependent clause last. No car is small enough to squeeze through the Medina's byways. Most motorbikes cannot make it up alleys that are slippery and steep. So why would you use this pattern out of the 5 that I'm going to show you? Why this one? Well, you use this one when the dependent part of the relationship, the dependent relationship, is less important than the 2 independent ideas that you are joining together. And I think Orlean's sentence does this pretty well. It is more important we know that there are no cars in Fez. It's less important that we know why there are no cars in Fez. And in particular, when you think about the known to new contract, this is a story about donkeys. The title has donkeys in it. The first couple of paragraphs have donkeys in them. I mean, she opens with this image of a donkey that she remembers. What the people know, what her audience knows, is donkeys. What they don't know is why so many donkeys. So she's taking them from this known idea that there are a lot of donkeys everywhere to the new idea, which is why there are donkeys, and it's because the cars can't get around. Compound complex sentence pattern number 2, dependent clause first. If I could tell you the exact intersection where I saw him, I would do so. But pinpointing a location in Fez is like noting GPS coordinates in a spider web. Now, why would you use this sentence pattern, dependent clause first? Well, you would use it when the dependent relationship is supremely important. If pattern number 1 was about the dependent relationship slightly less important, then this one is, dependent relationship needs to be foregrounded. This has to be up front. This particular sentence about GPS and a spiderweb, this is actually the second sentence of Orlean's text. The first sentence is this image of a donkey that she saw in the city of Fez that was carrying a bunch of TVs on its back. And then she wants to use this sentence, the second sentence, in order to let us know that Fez, the layout of the streets, is kind of crazy. And the way she writes this sentence really clues us into that, because she begins with the fact that she can't remember exactly where she had previously seen this donkey. That immediately is a big clue to us what it is that she's trying to describe, or I guess I should say where it is that she's trying to describe. Compound complex sentence pattern number 3, dependent clause in the middle. We had no trouble parking because there were only a handful of cars and trucks, but the rest of the parking area was cluttered with wagons and carts. So why use this sentence pattern? Why of the 5 would you want dependent clause in the middle instead of at the end or at the beginning? You would use this pattern, the dependent clause in the middle, if it was that dependent relationship that tied the two independent ideas together. At this point in the text, Orlean is at or going to a donkey market some ways outside of the town of Fez in Morocco, and so she's pulling into the parking lot, and she's saying 2 things. It was really easy to park. There were a lot of donkey carts and wagons, right? These are 2 things that are true. It's easy to park, a lot of carts and wagons, and it's the dependent relationship that there are barely any cars and trucks that joins those 2 ideas together. It's a really nice reminder, actually, of the fact that all over Morocco you see more donkey traffic, or at least the part that Orlean is talking about. You see more donkey traffic than you do car traffic, and it's also a really nice way for Orlean of honoring the known to new contract, because once again we are following. So we know that it was easy to park. All right, so that's the new information, that there weren't a lot of other motorized vehicles there. And then another piece of new information, leading one directly from the other, is that what there was instead was a bunch of carts and wagons. Those first 3 compound complex sentence patterns, pretty easy to remember, because it's all about where the dependent clause is. It's first, it's in the middle, it's last. These next 2, a little more complicated. And in fact, they have not 3 clauses, but 4. And so here we go. Pattern number 4, parallels. By this time, the crowd had become emotionally invested in the idea that I might buy the donkey. Moreover, a gaggle of little boys who were giggling and jumping up and down with excitement had joined in. So why use a parallel structure, IC-DC, IC-DC, or DC-IC, DC-I? Why? Well, why use parallelism ever? And I have an entire episode on parallelism coming up next, actually. That's the next episode I'm recording. But why parallelism exists so that you as a writer can get the reader to understand implicitly the form of what you are trying to say, the structure of what you're trying to say, so that the reader can focus on content. When a reader sees parallelism, it activates a little part of their brain that says, okay, this idea and this idea and this idea are very similar because they're structured the same way. And so when you use a parallel structure for your compound complex sentence, you are letting the reader concentrate on what you are saying rather than how you are saying it. And so think about this moment in the text. And by now, I hope you figured out, I should just pause it and read the thing, because you should just pause it and read the thing. But at this point in the text, Orlean has gone to a donkey seller in this market, and like a good journalist, she's asking him questions about the donkey. He misunderstands and thinks, oh, she doesn't want information. She wants to buy this donkey. She has no intention of buying the donkey. And we as readers, we know that. We know she has no intention of buying this donkey, but the people there, they don't know that she has no intention of buying this donkey. And so being able to set up the reactions of the crowd, especially the giggling gaggle of children, that is really important for Orlean to get. I don't know if she's looking for sympathy or a laugh or what exactly that she's looking for, but the content of what is happening, where this whole spectacle is going, that is what she thinks of as important. And the final compound complex pattern, again, 2 independent clauses, 2 dependent clauses, but this time rather than set up in parallel, they're set up as palindromes. The Medina looked exactly as I remembered it, where the dun-colored buildings clustered tight together and the twisting paths disappear into shadow. So why use this one, the palindromic formation of a compound complex sentence? Well, unlike a parallel sentence where it feels like you're setting up equal or similar ideas, a palindrome construction feels really additive. That in the first little bit you get an independent clause and a dependent clause, and then afterwards, you are just getting more and more and more, and you can really see it in Orlean's description here of the Medina. It really feels additive, that there are more details that she wants to provide for us. And these details are not weighted exactly the same as her first statement that she remembers what the Medina looked like, but rather they are additive because they are adding information that we as readers need. And when you think about the known-new contract, that relationship that you have with your readers, or that you as a reader have with Susan Orlean, that relationship is perfectly encapsulated in this particular sentence structure, because its very nature means that what comes towards the end of the sentence is new, and where you begin is the known. So the palindromic formation really gives you that additive feeling in your sentences. And that is it. I want to throw another shout out to Corvitz and Devereaux. They wrote this fantastic little book called Grammar to Get Things Done. It really helped me to think about not just compound complex sentences, but how to teach grammar, how to structure this particular series even. We're going to talk about this is the pattern you use and this is why you use it. Supremely important. If you're a teacher and you're watching this, you should buy this book. If you're a student and you're watching this, Teacher Appreciation Day is coming up, or Valentine's Day. No, wait, that's creepy. Don't do that. Now, these 5 sentence patterns that we talked about today, hardly a comprehensive look at the compound complex sentence, but they're enough to get you started, because again, this sentence type is really important for you to know in high school, in college, in the workplace, on Facebook, where you can intimidate your relatives with how smart you sound. And I'm really hopeful that you can remember these 5 sentence patterns, because they're pretty easy. You come in 2 groups: dependent clause first, middle, or last, and then you've got parallel or palindrome. I hope that you can remember those and really think about those when you are doing your writing. But I will say that we are done talking about the 4 sentence types: the simple sentence, compound sentence, complex sentence, and this one, the compound complex sentence. Now, there's still a lot more to say about sentences and about syntax, which is a fancy way of saying word order and sentence construction. And, so there are 4 more episodes coming up yet in this series of some things that I want to talk about. But we are done with those 4 sentence types, and you can pat yourself on the back, go out and buy some cake or something. In the meantime, though, I will see you for the next one. Alfred ate a salad while Carl ate a steak.